All right, welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program is brought to you by Safety Systems. If you're thinking of adding a security system to your home or to your office, call the folks that I call. That's Safety Systems and VFL JJ Surlis. Now, they'll come, they'll do the install. They offer emergency and after-hours service. Their contracts will beat any of the national companies. They've been doing this for 20 years. They are the local leaders. Not only do they do the security systems and the life safety systems and the fire safety systems, but they also do one heck of an audio-video system if you're looking for a home theater setup. Safety Systems, give them a call. You see their website right there. Check them out today, just as soon as this show's over. Safety Systems. Okay. This week, David Oven did a great job on The Athletic. Took an idea where you went and you didn't look at 24/7 star rankings. By the way, for those that don't follow recruiting as much, and I'm guessing most of our viewers do, but they actually do a number ranking that goes along with each of these players. It's not just the star. So a star could be this range to this range. If you're a 5-star, it would be this range. 4-star. So in other words, there are different degrees of 4-star, of 3-star. So David went, took the position by position look at the roster, plugged in 24/7's numbers for each of these guys, and did the average ranking by position. Now, this doesn't tell you, and so we're not arguing with your findings, the numbers are the numbers, but this doesn't tell you some of those bigger stars or bigger numbers may be backups, maybe new guys. So let's take a look at the talent level by position based on average points. And you got the stars over there on the right as well. Again, I give David the credit for doing the numbers. This is the kind of geekery I love. It's geekery, and I didn't have to do it. Inside linebackers, in terms of your average points, that is your highest talent grade. Inside linebackers, and how many people would argue with this? Quarterback, number 2. But you remember how highly rated Jarrett Garantano was when he came out of high school. And that's a perfect example of the rating versus the performance. Offensive line, outside linebacker, wide receiver, safety, running back, defensive line, cornerback, which you actually I would feel good about my starting corners there. Tight end, because you got a lot of question marks right there. Gentlemen, is this how you feel? What you're looking at here, do you feel this way? Is this the ranking as you feel it? And David, it's your piece. I'll let you start with it. Did this surprise you? Do you agree that the numbers tell the story?
Yeah, I think so. The idea here is that this is sort of, once you get the clay on campus, you got to shake the clay and carve the clay. But this is how much clay you got, basically. And I think this is what your talent level should look like in theory. I don't know if there were any huge surprises. I think when you look at Trey Smith, Cade Mays, Wanya Morris starting around, I think I probably would have thought O-line was a little bit higher. But there's some guys on the depth chart that are, I wouldn't say dragging it down, but you have a little 3-stars, even though your starting 5 is a lot. I mean, you're going to have 4 5-stars probably, and a 4-star you're starting 5. So it's a lot about developing depth. I wouldn't say there were any major surprises. Maybe I would have thought outside linebacker was a little bit higher. But, inside linebacker, Henry To'oto'o, and of course, J.J. Peterson doing the heavy lifting on that group, a group that's very, very thin right now.
Yeah, and let's just look at it from what you've got for next year, all right? Instead of the clay molding for the next 4 years, let's look at the 2020 roster for this season. Is that the way you would rank the position? If somebody said rank the positions in terms of how you feel about them, confidence level, is that how you rank them? Because I would have my corners a lot higher. I'd have my quarterbacks lower. There'd be some movement on that list. I don't know that my linebackers would be the top number 1 ranking. Thoughts? Anything stand out?
No, I think the linebackers fits what David mentioned earlier, and that's that there's guys, young guys with potential that maybe we haven't seen them as a finished product yet. Quavaris Crouch, J.J. Peterson, can go on, and there's more in this year's class. I think it's a little bit tougher to judge right now because now you're adding in those 2020 guys that we haven't seen play yet. So they're impacting the depth of talent at a specific position, but we haven't seen the productivity yet. So right now it's to be determined, but I think that linebacker one is where there's some talent there.
I was a little bit surprised how high the receivers ranked. Because everybody, you got to have receivers. You've lost your receivers. What are you going to do about receivers?
Well, this counts the guys they signed.
And potentially, right there, receivers ought to be one of your upper end groups. according to those numbers.
Yeah,
That
they got to prove it because you have, I mean,
Yeah.
one of the best recruiting, or one of the best 2020 receiver groups in the country coming to Tennessee. When you talk about Malachi Wideman, Jimmy Callaway, D. Beck with some of those guys, but they got to prove it. And so they'll be interesting to watch, but so much youth there. Ramel Keaton obviously on the roster. So much youth, but you got to have production, which they haven't had yet because they haven't had opportunities.
I guess I'm different from you guys because I look at this and I don't have any problem saying I don't think the receivers, I wouldn't rank them 5th because they're young. I haven't seen them.
Yeah,
So in terms of what
exactly.
I've
I
seen-
wouldn't have thought of them as your 5th best
Yeah,
group
that
according to those numbers. But yeah, recruiting class, new guys coming in.
And certainly
Interesting.
Harrison Bailey impacts the quarterback
Certainly.
position.
Just a
course,
little bit, yeah.
But, and that's why.
Gaetano had
Yeah.
good numbers as
Yeah.
well. That's the danger of these numbers is you never know. You're going to have somebody who doesn't score well, and everybody's like, well, why do we take that guy? And he'll be your All-American. Whereas somebody that's a 5-star, you go,
Yeah, like I wouldn't rank quarterback number 2 among my
Right.
most confident positions, but that probably is a reminder of why expectations are going to go up because if Garantano does struggle, frankly, before that even happens, if it does, fans are going to say, well, let's just replace the former 5-star guy with the newer 5-star guy.
Yeah.
So even if Bailey's young, he'll be compared to these other really highly touted guys that had success early. Fair or not, that's going to happen.
Funny part of that too, the rankings. I counted Jimmy Holiday as quarterbacks because he's going to come in as a quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll finish his career as a quarterback, but if you take him out, quarterback's number 1.
really? How about
Yeah.
So if he moves to receiver,
If he moves to receiver and you do this again, quarterbacks be the most talented position
On average,
on
'cause
average
it
in
helps-
terms of recruiting
yeah, it helps
ranking and
him.
where they're at on this roster.
Yeah.
When you thought, I would have thought running backs would have been higher
Yeah.
based
Yeah,
on productivity.
Chris, I don't know if you can go back to that graphic. Can we get that graphic back up there? My talented and spectacular director, Chris Lane. Look at that.
That's the thing. Running backs have been high on production and not on, like, Ty Chandler was highly rated, Eric Gray highly rated, but Tim Jordan was the lowest rated signee in the 2017 class. And then you look at the rest of that group, they didn't have a ton of, like beyond, I said, Ty Chandler and Eric Gray. Pretty average group of recruiting rankings, but they've been productive,
Yeah.
so props to those guys.
And again, I look at Thompson and Taylor, who I still have confidence in as your cornerbacks moving forward. I would not rank my cornerbacks 9th. In terms of comparing them to the group. But again, you're just going by the numbers here. Well, it's interesting, tight end low there, but that's a position I really don't worry about because in the history of Tennessee,
Yeah.
it hasn't been a position that's really been a huge part of at least the passing offense. With the exception of Jason Witten, you've never sat there and said, oh, well, they can't lose this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had
Yeah.
some guys that wound up going to the pros. I mean,
Yeah.
Rivera
I think
had
it'll be
a
more
good career.
important for the running game
Yeah.
next year.
Well, exactly. It's more about the blocking than it is the pass receiver.
But without Donwood Anderson, it's no surprise that that's last.
Right.
But you're just
That it
not
dropped.
a lot of depth of talent there. And then also the D-line, too. That's another, to my point earlier, I think there's not a known star in that group. It just with those lower ratings, you wonder if somebody's going to develop.
Yeah, it's weird because people think the defensive line group is deep, and I don't necessarily disagree, but they feel that way because there's not a drop-off. But the problem is your first unit might be here, your second unit might be here. Well, maybe they'd like to be in a better spot where maybe, hey, your second group is here, but your first group's like here.
Right.
And we haven't seen that. And so I think that when you don't see that drop-off, people feel really good about depth, but your top end is maybe not as high as they would like it to be.
Well, I think last year you went into the season and most of us thought, okay, this is going to be an F.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
wound up being a C across the board.
That helps.
You'd rather it be an A across the board. And
In the
you're-
SEC.
Right now you're a C, yeah. Okay, when we come back, we got a different list that David put together. And this one is based on the returning production from last year. And some of these things, some of these position groups change when you look at this. This will be interesting. Come on back on the Sports Source.
The biggest sports crew in the state of Tennessee. This is the Sports Source.